Hi, good afternoon to all of you. So, am I audible? Thank you. So, last class we talked about the RSA algorithm. So, today we will continue little this public cryptography. And I think my screen is visible to all of you. So, these are the general, the major algorithms are there in our public cryptography: RSA, Algo, LGAML, E6C. And these two, this is we discussed in detail. There are many attacks are possible on this, and that also we discussed in the last class, few of them. So most of the attacks are possible based on the timing attacks. How the timing attacks are going to be succeeded on this, we discussed that also in the last class. Right. So another version of a RSA algorithm is there. Because the existing RSA algorithm is not CCS secure, chosen ciphertext secure, that you remember, right? And it is very easy to compromise for chosen plain text attack, chosen plain text attack. But these attacks are not feasible based on the practical scenario. However, we should not entertain such a kind of attacks also. We should not entertain such a kind of attacks in cryptography. That you need to be keep in the mind. So now what we need to be discuss, we want to make it, it's going to be more secure compared more secure CPA. That method we call it as a optimal asymmetric encryption padding. What we call O A E P. This is a one variant of RSA algorithm. There are many variants are there, like I can say there are multiple variants are there, but this is very popular right now. This is very popular, RSA OAEP. Okay. So how we will work on this RSA OAEP? Just you need to choose any message M, and followed by some zeros. The length is going to be almost is equal to K1 length. The K1 0 bits you need to be append to this one. And choose another value R. This is a random value. And the length of this one is going to be, we can say K0. Length of this one is going to be K0. And whatever information you have here that you provide as input to this XOR operation, and this R, whatever R is there here, this R you provide as input to function G. This is a function G, and this function G is provide another input to this particular XOR operation. Again, whatever value you will get over here, provide as an input to some function H. Here function H is there, and that function H is going to be XOR with the your R value, your R value. So now you assume here, what value we will receive this one. Here we will receive x0, and which is going to be equal to your g of r, the function of y. The g is a function, and input is going to be R. That's why I'm writing here as G of R. XOR with what values are there? Some M is there and followed by zeros are there. K1. This is X0 and our X1 is going to be output of this one. This is one output, this is another output. So here X1. What is our X1? X1 is going to be equal to R XOR of HX0. HX0. That means like X0 we provide as the input to H. That's why we will get, okay, X1 is going to be equal to R XOR H of X0. Now you provide this X0 and X1 are the input to. That means, okay, here you need to write it down. The complete message is going to be this one. That is going to be Y. So Y is equal to X0 and X1. Now this one you provide as a input to, this one you are going to provide as a input to your RSA algorithm. RSA algorithm. So this RSA algorithm is going to produce with help of key K your Y to the power E of mod n. This is secure against CCA attack. There are two popular attacks are there. Keep it in mind. CCA attack and CPA attack. And CPA attack. Chosen ciphertext attack and chosen plaintext attack. Here CCA2 is there again. That is an adaptive chosen ciphertext attack. So whatever algorithm we are going to be studying in this particular course, always we are looking for whether these algorithms are going to be CPA secure or CCA secure or CCA2 secure or not. Means or generally people are going to look for all this. The algorithm should be CCPA secure and CCA secure and CCA2 secure. Right. So this is a one variant of RSA algorithm. OAEP. O means optimal, A means asymmetric, E means encryption, P means padding. Means padding. Okay, some people have a question. Suppose how we will decrypt this one. This decryption is very simple. You need to be parse Y, come back to your you come back from y to the power E. You need to be find Y. You will extract Y with help of decryption operation. You apply here decryption operation, then you will get back Y. Then Y is going to be equal to X0, X1. Again, you have to move towards to this direction. These are simple XOR. Again, you divide that X0 and X1. You provide this X1 as an input to this XOR function. And again, you need to be parse these two values. Right. Again, here you parse these two values and go back so that you will get back your M followed by zeros and followed by your random value. Discard all these values, then you will get back your the original message back to you. You have a doubt, okay, how this is going to be CPA secure? Yeah, CPA secure. Why? Because you suppose what information is going to be revealed? Information is going to be revealed Y only, not M directly in this. So nobody cannot hack on this particular variant of RSA algorithm. Variant of RSA algorithm. Okay, so this is CCA secure RSA version. CCA secure RSA version. Okay. And I have to go for next one. To go for next one. So here we will talk about mainly. So I'm not talking about okay these two algorithms are Elgamal ECC algorithms, but these algorithms I will discuss later on. Whenever we are going to talk about the distance signature, there we will discuss about this particular algorithms, Elgamal and okay ECC algorithms. And mostly I may not discuss about ECC algorithm. We have a lot of syllabus, and this is a little okay, advanced topic for you. So that I am not planning to discuss this one in this particular course, ECC. But okay, this is a wonderful algorithm for you. Right? Another interesting concept here, and the public key cryptography was designed based on this particular concept only. Based on this particular concept only. What is that? The concept is going to be called Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. Right. Diffie-Hellman Hellman's okay, key the Diffie-Hellman's key exchange mechanism. Actually, we cannot say this one as a Diffie-Hellman. Generally, we will use this as a Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. Why? Because okay, generally all keys are to be exchanged with help of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange mechanism only. Generally, I'm telling. There are advanced okay, key exchange mechanisms also there, but mostly, most of the time we will discuss about this only. Why? Because this is the basic fundamental protocol, and none of the attacks are succeeded on this particular Diffie-Hellman concept. Here, we should understand one particular concept is going to be called as a trapdoor function. What we call trapdoor function. So actually this trapdoor function is a permutation family. It's a permutation family. So this okay, trapdoor function is used to generate the key. So we should know how trapdoor function is going to be work. Before that, I want to complete the concept of a Diffie-Hellman key exchange mechanism. Right? And trapdoor function will discuss okay, later on also because it is a very fundamental question for us, all of us. First of all, how Diffie-Hellman key exchange process is going to be happened, we'll discuss. Just to observe here. Just to observe here, Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. Alice is at one end, and another end is going to be Bob. Another end is going to be Bob. How these two are going to be communicated? Generally, you have a secret key algorithms or a secret key sharing algorithms, or you can call it as a symmetric key algorithms. Generally, you and your friend wants to communicate securely. Your friend is in somewhere in the some part of the world, and you are in India somewhere. How do you communicate securely? This is the fundamental question. This is a fundamental question. If in this particular example, what happens? If suppose I want to communicate, definitely I need to use the public channel. That public communication media is what? Internet only. Public communication is what? Internet only. So through internet, how we are able to, how this Alice and Bob able to communicate? There is a this is a wonderful problem long back, which was solved okay, Alan Turing, okay, during Second World War. I think during Second World War. I think Second World War or First World War. I'm not confirmed, but okay, 100% I can ensure the Second World War only. So there is a battlefield, and there is a strategic place. So all the army people and the soldiers are fighting. And the strategists are there, okay, in some secret place, and they have to convey a message from this end to that end. That time, that means, okay, this particular, okay, Alan Turing used this particular public key concept. That to prime, he introduced the prime number, and he used the prime number. Use the prime number. Why? Because, okay, just you observe what the simple version he was used, okay, at the time. There is a prime number, okay, p, and he multiplied this. That means, okay, he make it. Suppose a message is there. Suppose I have a message. That message, I am appending something and make that particular message into a prime number. Example, I have A01, I will represent, B02, I will represent, 3, C is there, 03, I will represent. Like that, how many characters are there? 26 characters. Maximum you will get 26 values. Suppose any message is there, corresponding, alphabet corresponding value you need to be used. Means suppose hello is there, H. What is the corresponding value to the H? That you need to be write it down. E corresponding value you need to write it down. That will substitute it. If you may substitute like that, suppose, okay, I have, okay, some value, some like AB, this is my message. I want to convey to other party. What Alan Turing said, this one you represent 01, this one you represent with 02. And add any of the prime number, that means append any of the prime number over here. Suppose I may append here 02, which except 02, except 0. Why? Because, okay, if it's except 0, except 2, all other prime numbers are odd numbers. That's why he said except 2, you can add any one. And ensure the total number is going to be a prime. Suppose I may add here 3. Or and what is good? 0, 1, 0, 2, 3. So 1023 is a prime number or not? You have to verify. If it is a prime number, use it as it is, no issue. If it is not a prime number, instead of 3, you use a 5, 6, 7, 13, 11, and so on. So whenever it is, this is the easiest way to just generate a prime numbers. Alan Turing, at the time he was mentioned like this. If suppose 1023 is a prime number, multiply this with some p, some another prime number p. Actually, this is your message. This message you convert into number. And this number you are multiplying with some prime number. This is going to be treated as your key. This is going to be treated as your key. Then you will get some value over here, some value x over here. You just convey this x value to the people who are in the battlefield. There is a question here. How we will convey this key k? Until unless we are not going to be convey this key k, the message is not going to be revealed to the battlefield people. That's why this is a beautiful problem actually. This is a beautiful problem to how to convey this message. Otherwise the protocol works very well. How decryption process he suggested? Just simply divided by p. Then this p and this p, both p's are going to be cancelled. The remaining is going to be the message, and discard the last value, so that the remaining is going to be the message. Anyhow, very easy to crack this particular algorithm. Just you need to write, two messages are there, suppose C1, C2. I generated like that. I may find GCD of these two. What is the GCD value here? Anybody can guess and tell me? I will check in the chat box. Anybody can tell me what is the GCD of, suppose in a Turing concept, what is the GCD value we will get? He generated, how he generated? You have a message, write in the form of 0102 form, every character you convert, like that. And then you find a GCD of the the ciphertext values. No, this is not one. Any guess from your side? Yeah, correct. That is a prime P. That means whatever key value you're supposed to be used, that's why that is very easy to crack that. That is very easy to crack it. Right. And another version also is suggested, but okay, now okay, we don't have a time. That's why we are not going to discuss about that one. The problem you have to understand, what problem I'm stating, exchanging a key is the biggest problem. That problem solved by this Diffie-Hellman. From that one only in around 1977 or 1970, at the time, he solved the problem. Till today, no attack succeeded on this particular Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. A simple concept he used. What concept he used? Just you observe here. Just to observe here, what the simple concept? What is the simple concept he used? A very simple, fundamental concept only he used. Let's use other color, blue, right here. What he supposed to be used? Choose any prime number P and find the corresponding generators to this P. What we called it as, okay, what are the generator? What is the meaning of generator? First of all, we try to understand. What values are there? Suppose my P is going to be 5, then I am choosing Z5. What values are there in this? I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4 values are there in my Z5. How many generators are there? That means you should write like this in the form of, okay, sum 1 to the power 0, 1 to the power 1, 1 to the power 2, and 1 to the power 3. The resultant values are going to be the remainder. After you may apply, once you find the power, let's suppose I will use 2. 2 to the power 0 means what is the value? 1. And 2 to the power 1 means I will get 2. 2 of mod 5 is equal to 2. That is my remainder value 2 again. And 2 to the power 2 is equal to 4. What is my remainder value? After I may apply mod 5, I will get 4 again. 2 to the power 3, I may choose. What is the value I will get here? 8. 8 mod 5 is equal to 3. So that's I'm able to represent all these remainder values with help of this one. Then we call these two as a generator. Or sometimes people are going to call this as a primitive root also. Sometimes people are going to treat this as a primitive root also. Are you getting? This is a generator. So likewise, every prime number has a few generators. Like this, every prime number has some few generators. Example, I can tell you, I don't know what is this color. Right. 3, if I may choose 3 to the power 0, 3 to the power 1, 3 to the power 2, and 3 to the power 3. What is the value for this? 3 to the power 0? 1. 3 to the power 1? 3. 3 square? 9. 9 of mod 5 is equal to 4. So that the element is there in this. So this is called prime finite field. This is also a prime finite field, and 3 to the power 3 is going to become this one. At the same time, you may go for 4 0 power 4 to the power 0, 4 to the power 1, 4 to the power 2. So this is not a generator. This is also a generator. But this is not a generator and this is not a generator. Why this is not a generator? 16. 16 means what you will get? 1 you will get. 4 you will get, and 4 to the power 4 into 4, 16. 16 mod 5 is equal to 1. Only two reminders are there, 1 and 4, 1 and 4, 1 and 4. Always this 1 and 4 will continue forever. That's the point. So this we call it as a primitive roots or generators. Primitive roots or generators. So likewise, you need to be choose a particular number. Suppose P is a prime. and this P contains some G as a generator. G as a generator. Then what you need to do? Choose any random value x which is belongs to ZP and compute g to the power x, g to the power x, and transfer this g to the power x to B. What you are transforming? G to the power x. At the same time, just okay, you understood this B will be received this g to the power x, and B is going to be choose some random value y, and compute g to the power y. So this is going to be forwarded to A, g to the power y. So now G received g to the power y, g to the power y, and he knows x, so that he is going to be apply to the power, what he will apply to the power? He will apply x. This is going to be called it as a key k. He will compute key k like this. Got it? He received g to the power x, but he knows y. He knows y. He knows y. So this way he is also going to be calculate the key k. So in this way, both A and B successfully exchange the key between A and B in an insecure channel. So my question over here it is going to be all of you. Any man in the middle attacker can attack this particular scenario, and they are able to read, or they are able to generate the key or not. I'm expecting some answers from you. Please, okay, try to give okay answers to me, and we'll come back to this discussion again. So, what is your comments on the Diffie-Hellman key exchange process? Please, all of you answer. Okay, it's a very interesting topic. How man in middle attacker can succeed to know the key or not? He's going to guess the key or not? Any one of you answer it, so that okay, I would like to, I may understand. Okay, most of you understood, I think. At least one of you. If you are not understand, again I will explain. No issue for that. Yeah, he knows only g to the power x plus y, but he doesn't know g, na? He does not know g. What is g? He does not know. G to the power x is going to be a value. That value only we are transforming. We are transmitting from one end to other end. Got it? So why this is infeasible and why it's so popular for you, for us to understand? So computationally, from x to g to the power x computation is feasible. We can do this. At the same time, from g to the power x to X computation is infeasible. From g to the power x to x computation is infeasible. Only one concept is there, that is discrete logarithmic concept. Discrete logarithmic concept. We can do with help of that, but that is also not going to give a perfect solution to you until unless we don't know the G. We don't know the G. Okay? I think most of you understand what I said here. Diffie-Hellman key exchange, man in the middle attacker may not succeed successfully. We can share the key between the A and B without some problems, right? Just so this is about the Diffie-Hellman key exchange process, and we will come back and we will discuss this public key cryptography once we will reach digital signature concept. Why? Because now digital payments are going to be happen through digital this particular digital signatures only, and we'll study that how digital payments are going to be happen in the real world scenario and how these cryptography protocols are going to be used for this particular digital payments right now. So I will come back, and my next topic is going to be, so now here I want to complete my one particular objective for this course. That objective is going to be the confidentiality. We achieved confidentiality with help of public key cryptography and private key cryptography, or asymmetric cryptography and symmetric cryptography. Under asymmetric cryptography, we studied public this RSA algorithm and Diffie-Hellman key exchange process. We are going to be study remaining protocol, remaining algorithms. Right? We understood something here. How to keep secret our information. Second point. The second point is going to be symmetric key algorithm. Both asymmetric and symmetric algorithm we are using. We used for what purpose? Any one of you? What purpose we studied symmetric key and asymmetric key cryptography? We just assumed some objectives in our starting of the class. So one of the objectives is going to be confidentiality, integrity, availability. We are not going to be discuss. After that, the few real-time concepts we are going to be discuss. So till today class, we discussed and we understood the concept of confidentiality and how to achieve the confidentiality. So my point over here is going to be to all of you is, alone confidentiality is sufficient to work it out? I don't think so. That is not sufficient. Why? I will tell you. How man middle attacker is going to create a problem to you. Suppose it's the same the concept. I will come back and I will use Alice and Bob, both are there. There is a powerful symmetric key or a asymmetric key algorithm to encrypt the message. He generated a powerful encryption algorithm with help of a powerful key. My words you need to keep it with you, and encrypted this message M and forwarded to Bob. Alice and Bob. So in between who will be there? In between who will be there? Eve is there. Eve can create any kind of attack over here. Eve is there. Eve can create any attack on this particular communication. So may I get some ideas from you? If suppose you are going to be assume like an Eve and try to give some I will do attack like this, sir. I will perform like this attack, sir, like that. You can say something to me so that I will get to know that. Yeah, he is going to be modify the ciphertext. Krishna Kishore said change ciphertext. That means he is going to modify the ciphertext. This is the fundamental attack. This is the fundamental attack I am addressing to you. So here, if suppose what happens, he is going to be receive this one. The attacker Can use, you have to, whatever C you generated, he will receive this C. Okay, he's going to receive the C here, and he is going to modify the C as a C dash. What B will receive? B is going to receive C dash. If he is going to be decrypt, what he will get? He will get M dash, not M. This M is not okay, the original M. M is the modified one. Right? How to prevent from this? Only the one concept which we need to be used, that is going to be, we need to be use some integrity to your message. Integrity to your message. Here, okay, a lot of okay, discussions are there, where we need to be use public key, how to use public key, and at what time we will use public key, at what time we will use symmetric key. Both symmetric key and asymmetric key has its own okay, merits and demerits. While you are developing some protocols, you need to know the merits and demerits of this protocol, and okay, you try to understand where should we need to use the public key and where should we need to use symmetric key. And second point, alone okay, confidentiality is not sufficient. We required okay, integrity also. We require integrity also. How we will achieve integrity over here? How we will achieve integrity over here? Any one of you, integrity is going to be achieved with help of what? Any one of you, how we will achieve integrity? No answer from your side. Is it achievable or not? Yes, sign. So sign is not only the solution, any other. So integrity we will achieve. For that, what is required? We required to define a cryptography hash function. What we need to be defined? Cryptography hash function. Then only we will go and generate the digital certificates. So my point here, it's a very fundamental concept. I will come back and I will ask you a question again. How to define a hash function? I told you integrity we will achieve through hash functions only. The two cryptography hash functions. This is a very interesting and very good concept for all of you to understand. So next class is going to be a wonderful class for you again, I'm telling you. If you will miss, you are unable to understand the blockchain concept. Because right now people are okay, everybody security point of view, you may ask anyone, I will say blockchain. If you want to understand blockchain, this is the fundamental class for you. Today's okay, introduction, and tomorrow's okay, the next class okay, discussion. Right? Anybody can okay, define a hash function? How you can define a hash function? You studied, I think, in your data structures, no? Right. I will give my own definition to all of you to understand. So hash functions are going to be defined. Hash function is going to be defined like this. Hash function required what? So some input is there, and you have to create an output with help of a hash function. Hash function. So hashing is a function which requires input. What kind of input it will choose? It chooses 0, 1 as an input, and the message is going to be in a variable length, which is not in a constant length. So with help of this hash function, we will produce a constant bit length output. A constant bit length output. This is the general definition for the hash function. If anybody asks you, you can say this one, okay, we have variable length input and we will produce a constant length output. But this particular definition is sufficient to define okay, cryptography hash function? You may ask me like that, okay, I will say only one point, okay, that is not possible. That is not possible. Why? always your message is going to be more length, and your output is going to be very less length. How can you ensure that? That is not possible. That's why we need to be defined. We need to be add some more properties to this hash function so that we can define cryptography hash function. Cryptography hash function. So what is a cryptography hash function? You may observe means suppose I transmitted C here. So I may keep my hash value of C. If somebody may change this one and a corresponding hash value, you may append it and forward it then. The purpose is not going to be solved. That's why nobody cannot understand this one. There are a couple of concepts are available here. Hash function is one. Another one is going to be the Merkle root concept. Merkle root concept means you have some leaf nodes and it's a balanced concept or unbalanced you may use. Here a hash function is there and here a hash function is there. These two are going to be used to connect the third one and so on. It's from leaf to you traverse towards the root. This is a beautiful concept. We'll discuss this one also. The way we are going to be calculate the hash is going to be this is the one-way hash. So finally, what I said, we have four properties we need to be satisfied to define cryptography hash function. One is going to be one-way hash function. One is going to be one-way hash function. Second one is going to be the collision resistance. We are not going to entertain any collisions. A message is there, uniquely represent the message. Nobody cannot generate this value of that hash value. This is comes under collision resistance. That means the same. That means what I want to say here, one way means you know the definition. Collision resistance means two different messages are there. M is not equal to M dash, but their corresponding hash values are also not equal. Then we call that as a collision resistant. These two are different. Definitely their hash value is also going to be different. Then only you call it as your algorithm is a collision resistant algorithm. Sorry. And the next one is going to be pseudo randomness. Next one is going to be pseudo randomness. One I may generate the same thing. The next value I am unable to understand what value is the next value. That is called pseudo randomness. That is going to be PRN, pseudo random number. And the fourth one is very interesting point: non-malleability. Non-malleability. So these 4 points we will discuss in the next class in detail, and we will also define a new next generation cryptography hash function. Now, this is the hash function definition. We understood. One more hash function definition is there. Today we will discuss that. That is going to be next generation hash function. What do we call? Next generation. I'm writing X means next generation hash function. Hash function. What does it mean? What does it means? You have a variable length input message. Desired output length. What I can call desired output length. This is the desired output length. Example I will tell you how they designed this cryptography next generation cryptography hash function. Let's suppose you may choose any sponge. You have water in a bucket, put it in the water. What happens? The sponge is going to be absorb some amount of water. Whenever it absorbs some amount of water, what happens to that? Size of the size width of that particular sponge, definitely it is going to be shrink. Then how much amount of pressure you may apply on that to release some of the water, according to that the sponge characteristics are going to be changed. Completely squeeze the water, it will come to the initial shape. If some water is remaining inside the sponge, then the property, that width and length are going to be a random shape. Got my point? The same concept they used to develop this next generation hash function. Means okay, I want to this length of y because we have wide variety of problems and applications. The same constant concept we may use for all these, which will be a burden to process all the data. Example, we have Internet of Things, a small devices, very tiny devices, which has a very little complexity, little computational power, and they have a little battery. These are all, that means whenever you have a high computations, then the battery power is going to be consumed more, so that the node is going to be die very soon. Due to that, they developed this cryptography hash function. At the same time, you go for cryptocurrencies like your blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum. There are a lot of cryptocurrencies are there. There you require a lot of computations. There you require more secure hash function, so that limited value which is not a correct thing to use over there. Clear? So our priorities are different. In the future, according to that, we need to be change the function. But we will study this function. There is here you need to be observed. We have some algorithms like MD4, MD5, SHA secure hash algorithm, and SHA1 and SHA2. There are three variants are there in secure hash algorithm. SHA1, SHA2. This is 128. This is 256. And this is going to be 512. And here, this is the cover, the hash function and hash function rate is power. Now here, we are about to move to this particular SHA-3 concept. SHA-3 is designed based on the next generation cryptography, treated as a next generation cryptography hash function. Clear? And these two comes under weak collision resistance algorithms. These two are weak collision resistance algorithm, and this is going to be a strong collision resistant algorithm. Strong collision resistant algorithm, right? Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm going to stop here. And any questions are there from your side? Let me know if you have questions. If you don't have a question, say no, so that we'll close this session, and next class we'll start the discussion. Thank you. Sajid Kumar, you have any questions? Please let me know. Sajid has raised his hand. Thank you. So we'll meet in the next class and we'll discuss about the cryptography hash function. Thank you.